does it actually look like to gain 25 pounds and end up leaner than most people after a diet? Not 25 pounds of fluff, not a dirty bulk where you have to spend 6 months dieting just to see your abs again. 25 pounds of controlled, structured weight gain, while staying in shape the entire time. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how we did this with our client Cian, step by step, phase by phase with the actual number. This is the Perform framework in action. Cian came to us 25 years old, 6'3", 200 pounds and around 20% body fat. So not overweight, but not lean either. That soft middle ground where you don't look bad, but you don't look like you train either. He works in the mines in Australia, highly active job. We're talking 15,000 steps plus per day, just from work, working 12-hour shifts. He was in a poor sleep routine, only getting about 5 to 6 hours per night. He was training 4 days per week, but there was no real structure. No progressive overload, no tracking, just showing up and doing whatever felt right on that day. And his nutrition was the same story. No calorie tracking, no meal structure, high inconsistency, some days eating a lot of food, and then some days barely eating anything. He described himself as an intermediate level, but his results didn't reflect that. And the reason why is because he had no system. He was training without a plan, eating without tracking, and hoping that it would all come together. With Cian sleeping 5 to 6 hours per night whilst working 12-hour physical shifts, his recovery capacity was already compromised before he even touched the weight. Cian wanted to build muscle, but at 20% body fat, he wasn't in an optimal position to do so. When body fat is elevated, insulin sensitivity is reduced. More of the food that you eat gets stored as fat, rather than being directed towards muscle. So you're fighting an uphill battle from day one. This left Cian with no meaningful progression, months and years of training with nothing really to show for it, which is the case for most men. We didn't just throw him into a bulk, that's what most people would have done, and that's why most people end up fatter and not more muscular. Instead, we took Cian through structured phases. A priming phase for 2 weeks, a dieting phase for 8 weeks, a reverse for 4 weeks, and then growth for 24 weeks. Each phase had purpose. Each phase set up the next. Let me walk you through what happened in each one. Before we could do anything, we needed to build Cian some consistent foundations to build from, otherwise known as a priming phase. We set calories at 3,000 per day, protein was 200 grams per day, his steps stayed at 15,000 because of his work, and structured a 4-day split around his routine. This wasn't about changing his body yet, it was about establishing control. We needed to standardize his intake so we could see what his body actually did at a consistent calorie level. We needed to lock in meal timing that worked around his 12-hour shifts, and we needed to introduce some structure to his training so we had performance data to track. And for those 2 weeks, body weight stayed essentially stable. I think we were down about 1 pound, which is nice. This told us that his maintenance was sitting around 3,000 calories, so now we had a real number to work from. His adherence was high, training quality improved immediately just from having a structured plan. And the outcome from this phase, we established his baseline. We knew his maintenance, his routine was locked in, now we could create a deficit, and now we could start a fat loss phase. From weeks 3 to 10, this is where we got Cian lean. Not for aesthetics, although that was a benefit, the setup for an efficient growth phase. We started calories at 2,700 and they finished at 2,300. His steps didn't change at 15,000 per day. Cardio was added in the final 3 weeks, only 4 sessions of 20 minutes, less cardio. We created a moderate deficit adjusted through nutrition alone for most of this phase. We held his cardio back as a tool for when it was needed, not thrown in from day one. And Cian's rate of loss averaged about 2 to 2.5 pounds per week. A bit on the faster end, but appropriate for his starting body fat and the relatively short diet duration. His adherence stayed high throughout, and his performance during the diet, this is what surprises most people. His strength improved, his energy improved, sleep improved, and digestion also. And the main reason for this is because we weren't starving him. We weren't doing excessive cardio. We were running a controlled deficit with adequate protein, and his body responded. And the outcome from this diet, his starting body weight was 200 pounds and his ending body weight was 180 pounds. His body fat came down to approximately 12 to 13%. So he pulled off 20 pounds in 8 weeks, significant visual change, and he was stronger at the end of his diet than he was at the start. Now he was lean and now he was primed to grow. From weeks 11 to 14, we didn't jump straight from dieting into a surplus. That's how you regain fat rapidly and waste the position you just earned. We started his food at 2,300 and we ended at 2,800. Cardio was moved entirely and his steps maintained at 15,000 per day. We increased his calories gradually by 150 per week. Gradual, controlled, watching how his body responded at each step. Weight came up slightly, about 1 pound in total, which is expected with water, glycogen and food volume. It wasn't body fat. And by the end of his reverse, he went from 180 pounds to 181 pounds. So his new maintenance calories were established at 2,800 calories. Cian was now eating 500 more calories per day at the end of his diet, weighing essentially the same and performing better in the gym. And this is what a proper reverse looks like. You don't just go back to eating normal, you gradually restore intake while maintaining your condition. Now he was ready to build. For weeks 15 to 38, we grew. 24 weeks of structured growth. This is where the transformation really happened. His starting calories were at 3,100, so a 300 calorie surplus from his new maintenance. Training was adjusted based on data, with weak points prioritized, specifically his chest and arms. We introduced a surplus gradually, not a 1,000 calorie jump overnight. A controlled increase that we adjusted based on his rate of gain. His target rate of gain was a 0.5 to 1 pound per week. That's a little bit on the higher end of our typical range, but Cian had a few things working in his favor. He was coming off a diet, had a lean body composition, so he had excellent nutrient partitioning. He had a highly active job keeping his expenditure elevated, and he was relatively less trained with his experience, meaning more room for growth. Progressive overload was the main focus. Every session tracked, every lift progressed systematically. During his growth phase, calories climbed from 3,100 all the way up to 4,000 calories by the end of his phase. That's not a number that we guessed, it's where his intake needed to be to continue gaining at the appropriate weight. Weight climbed steadily, performance climbed with it, and conditions stayed controlled. And the result after, his starting weight was 181 pounds, and he finished his growth phase at 205 pounds. Body fat finished at approximately 15%. So he gained 24 pounds, body fat only increased by 3 to 4%, with significant muscle gain with minimal fat accumulation. That's what structured growth phases look like. He started at 200 pounds, soft, no structure, spinning his wheels. He ended at 205 pounds, 5 pounds heavier than when he started, but leaner, more muscular, stronger, and eating 1,000 calories more per day. His strength increased across all lifts, not slightly, significantly. Training output improved. He was doing more work, recovering from it, and progressing. And the visuals is where the numbers become a reality. Almost the same scale weight at the start and near the end, but completely different physique. And that's the difference between 200 pounds at 20% body fat and 205 pounds at 15% body fat with more muscle mass. This wasn't magic, it wasn't genetics, and it wasn't drugs. It was structured phases. We didn't try to do everything at once. We got him lean first, then built. Each phase had purpose and set up the next. Cian showed up. He tracked, he followed the plan. We didn't guess, we tracked weight, performance, and biofeedback. When adjustments were needed, we made them based on data. And we didn't ignore that he worked 12-hour shifts in mining. We built around his schedule. Meal timing that worked with his schedule, training frequency that matched his recovery capacity. Now Cian isn't grinding on low calories trying to hold his condition. He's eating 4,000 calories a day and maintaining. He understands how his training and nutrition work. He has the knowledge and the systems to keep progressing. He's in a position to continue building, or if he wants to get leaner in the future, he can diet from a position of strength. More muscle, higher metabolism, and better habits. No regression cycles, no starting over, just continued progression. And as you will see, this was not achieved through extreme dieting, random training, stuffing his face and hoping for the best. It was achieved through structured application of proven principles. Get lean first if your body composition isn't where it needs to be. You'll grow more efficiently. Don't rush the process. Cian's transformation took about 38 weeks, not 8 weeks, not 12 weeks. Real change takes time. Track everything. You can't manage what you don't measure. Cian's results came from knowing his numbers and adjusting based off the data. Structure will always be effort alone. Cian was already training before he came to us. He was putting in effort, but effort without structure will leave you spinning the wheels. And that's how you gain 25 pounds and stay lean. Not by accident, not by genetics, by following a system. If your current approach lacks structure, if you've been training for years without seeing much results, that's likely the issue. Not your effort, not your genetics. If you want help implementing this, there's a link in the description where you can apply to work or perform. And if not, no worries. If you found this valuable, subscribe. I'll be posting more content like this with the education behind it. See you in the next one.